It's Jets Weekly with your host, Connor Hrabchak.
Hello everyone, and welcome into another edition of Winnipeg Jets Weekly. We've got a great week of games to talk about. The Jets played 3 home games this week against the Boston Bruins, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Montreal Canadiens. There's a ton of storylines to emerge from all 3 of these games. I'm going to cover it all before handing out my 3 stars of the week and my hardest working Jet awards later on in the episode. But first, let's get into that Tuesday night beatdown of the Boston Bruins. The Winnipeg Jets welcomed the Boston Bruins to town on Tuesday night, an Original 6 opponent, and they walked away with an 8-1 victory. It was easily one of the Jets' best performances of the year. The stats maybe don't tell the same story. They tell the story of more of an even game, but the Jets went 3 for 6 on the power play, and Jeremy Swayman, Boston's goaltender, did not have his best on this night, letting in a few soft goals in the third period that contributed to that high score. But there were plenty of storylines to emerge from this game. One of the most notable ones coming into it was Nikita Chibrikov was making his season debut. The Jets swapped prospects before this game, sending down Brad Lambert back to the Manitoba Moose and calling up Nikita Chibrikov to play on that second line with Cole Perfetti and Vladislav Namestnikov. And he scored a goal in his season debut to make it 8-1 for the Winnipeg Jets, a slap shot over the left shoulder of Jeremy Swayman. He, at that point, had 2 goals in 2 career NHL games, and he kept that streak going into the next game that we'll talk about in just a second here. But Nikita Chibrikov, nice to see him get into NHL action and score in his season debut. Another storyline that emerged from this game was that the top line for Winnipeg had a statement game, and look no further than the 3 stars selection, where all 3 of Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele, and Gabriel Vilardi were named the 3 stars of the game. That just tells you all you need to know about how well they played on this night. Mark Scheifele with 2 goals, that line scoring 3 goals at 5-on-5 and outchancing the Bruins 9-2, controlling 80% of the expected goals in their minutes. They absolutely dominated the Bruins on this night and were a huge reason not only for the 8-1 score, but for that 3 for 6 power play number that you see right behind me on the screen. Last thing on this game, once the Winnipeg Jets were winning 6-1 and things were out of hand on the scoreboard, the Boston Bruins, and more specifically Trent Frederic, decided to prove their toughness by fighting David Gustafsson, who has 0 career fights. Frederic with nearly 40 career fights in the NHL, one-punched Gustafsson, who had to be helped off the ice and remains in concussion protocol at the time of this recording. A really unfortunate situation for Gustafsson, who as the 13th forward hasn't gotten into many games this year. Scott Arniel and Adam Lowry both spoke after the game, would have liked to see that situation handled differently. Both Stanley and Lowry fought right after this Gustafsson fight, clearly trying to settle things down and send a message that those guys are the ones the Boston Bruins should have targeted. But nonetheless, a really unfortunate situation for David Gustafsson, which came in the Jets' 8-1 win over the Boston Bruins. That brings us to Thursday, where the Jets welcomed the Vegas Golden Knights to town and ultimately lost this game 3-2 in overtime. And I think if you polled the Winnipeg Jets fan base on the outcome of this game, 50% would say that they were lucky to come away with a point, and the case for that are the stats behind me here. The shots 36-20 in Vegas's favor, the expected goals 3.58 to 1.3, and the shot attempts 84-43. 84 shot attempts in a single game is a lot of shot attempts, and Vegas achieved that on this night. And the other 50% of the fan base would say, well, wait, the Jets were winning 2-1 with under 4 minutes to go. This should have been a win. Josh Morrissey, halfway through the third period, put the Jets up 2-1 with a slap shot over the blocker side of Adin Hill. And then Vegas went on the power play with under 2 minutes to go. And then Dylan DeMello tripped Mark Stone. Again, both of these calls late in the game sparking a ton of controversy. But the Jets then had to kill a 5-on-3. Vegas scored on the 5-on-3. The Jets still had to kill about a minute and a half of 5-on-4 time. They were able to do that and then went to overtime, where Ivan Barbashev finished this one off, and the Jets lost their first game in overtime of the season. But through 2 games of this homestand, there was plenty of controversy, from the fights late in the Boston game to the penalties late in this Vegas game, which ultimately saw the Jets lose this one 3-2 in overtime. That brings us to the final game of a 4-game homestand where the Jets welcome the Montreal Canadiens to town for a Hockey Night in Canada showdown on Saturday night inside Canada Life Centre. It was a sold-out crowd, plenty of Canadiens fans as you would expect, but it was a great atmosphere inside the building on this night, and the fans in the building got treated to a spectacular game. 4-2 win for the Winnipeg Jets. The shots relatively even, 27-28. The expected goals 2.88 for 2.56 in the Jets' favor, and the shot attempts relatively even as well, 49-56 in the Montreal Canadiens' favor. But something that was heavily in the Jets' favor on this night was the special teams. The Jets went 2 for 6 on the power play. That number is a little bit inflated as well. They had a lot of shortened power plays in this game, but one of the extended ones that they did have was a 5-on-3 where Kyle Connor finished it off to give the Jets a 3-1 lead at the time. That was a huge goal. The Jets had to score on that 5-on-3 to give themselves that insurance marker, and they did just that. Kyle Connor has been great this week, and I'll talk about him more later on in the episode. But more importantly, the Jets' penalty kill went 4 for 4 in this game. Patrik Laine, Montreal Canadien, it was his first game here in Winnipeg as a member of the Canadiens, and their power play has been really strong with him on it. So it was great to see the Jets' penalty kill go 4 for 4 and shut them down and win the special teams battle in this game. Last thing on this game, Patrik Laine, former Winnipeg Jet and fan favorite as everyone knows, mentioned in the morning skate that this game was going to be the first time he faced Connor Hellebuyck in his career. He jokingly said that Hellebuyck must have been out the last couple times that they played one another due to the Patty flu, and said it was understandable that Hellebuyck didn't want to face Laine. Laine had 7 shots on goal in this game, 4 of which came on Montreal's power plays. Hellebuyck denied them all. Laine came away with 0 goals on this night, and here's what Hellebuyck had to say after the game on the Patty flu and facing Laine for the first time in his career.
He flew those games because you never played your response.
No flu tonight. No flu tonight. He had a lot of shots tonight, and he's a good shooter, but none for him.
Yeah.
Now it's time to get into the awards, but before we do that, make sure you've hit the like button on the video, hit that subscribe and the notification bell, and while you're down there, drop a comment, let me know who your hardest working Jet of the week is. Let's get into the awards.
The hardest working Jet.
My hardest working Jet of the week is Nikita Chibrikov, and yes, his 3-game career goal scoring streak did come to an end on Saturday night, but we know that this award is not about offensive production, it's about how hard you work, and for that, Chibrikov takes home the hard hat this week. He was in on every single forecheck, hitting players much taller and much bigger than him, battling along the walls, playing strong defense, laid some strong hits as well, and it was really an injection of energy for that second line that had a really strong game on Saturday night against the Montreal Canadiens, and Chibrikov is producing as well, 3 points in 3 games. Here's what Scott O'Neill had to say about Chibrikov potentially earning himself an opportunity to stay with the Winnipeg Jets beyond Nikolai Ehlers' return.
Yeah, no, I think that he's the type of guy that could, play on the 4th line, 3rd line if there's injury, whatever. I think he's just because he's a competitive guy and he's an energy guy. Gets in on the forecheck. I'm not sure because I've never really seen it with limited minutes that it tends to happen with your 4th line. He'd still get some PP. So kind of he's a lot like Al. Yeah. So kind of along the same lines. I think maybe a touch more offense than Al, but kind of that's always things that happen. And like I say, we'll see where we're at when we get Nick back and kind of lay things out and see how we're looking. But he has certainly earned himself an opportunity.
So there it is, Scott O'Neill. And quick note on Nikolai Ehlers, he remains out of the lineup with a lower body injury, but he has begun skating with the Winnipeg Jets in a yellow non-contact jersey, so it shouldn't be long before we see Ehlers back out on the ice. But let me know down in the comments below if you think whether or not Chibrikov will remain with the Winnipeg Jets even when Nikolai Ehlers is healthy. Let me know down below. Let's get into the 3 stars of the week.
And now, the Jets Weekly 3 stars of the week.
My third star of the week is Jets defenseman Josh Morrissey. He was named to Team Canada's roster at the Four Nations Face-Off earlier this month, and he just seems to be getting better by the game. In that Boston game, he had a great pass to Mark Scheifele on the power play. The Vegas game, I brought it up earlier, a slap shot to put the Jets up 2-1 late in the third period, but it ultimately wasn't enough. But Josh Morrissey, even more responsibilities on his plate since the Dylan Sandberg injury, and he has managed it extremely well. He's my third star of the week. My second star of the week is Kyle Connor. I needed to include someone from that top line. As I mentioned earlier, they had an absolute statement game against the Boston Bruins on Tuesday night in that 8-1 win. And Kyle Connor had 2 goals this week and 3 assists, goals in the Boston game and the Montreal game, and he was a huge reason why the power plays went 3 for 6 in the Boston game and 2 for 6 in the Montreal game. He's my second star of the week. My first star of the week is Connor Hrabchak. This spot has almost been reserved for him all season long because his stats just keep getting better. Now up to 19-5-1 record-wise on the season, a 2.11 goals against average, a 926 save percentage, and 18.3 goals saved above expected, which is by far first in the NHL. He's absolutely the best goaltender in the league. For my money, he stole a point in that Vegas game and played incredible, stuffing Patrick Laine a handful of times on Saturday night against the Montreal Canadiens. Connor Hrabchak, my first star of the week. Now let's quickly dive into the Winnipeg Jets' upcoming schedule heading into the holiday break. They're going to start with a quick 2-game back-to-back on the West Coast against the San Jose Sharks and Anaheim Ducks. These are 2 very late games on weeknights for the Winnipeg Jets. 9:30 p.m. Central start on Tuesday, and then 9 p.m. Central start on Wednesday night. So make sure you've got your coffee this week. 2 very late games for the Winnipeg Jets before they return home on Saturday night against the Minnesota Wild for their holiday game inside Canada Life Center. And you can see the WST logo there. That is yet another game in our Winnipeg Sports Talk Game of the Month ticket pack. Can't wait to see everyone there on the concourse in Section 316 before the game, chopping it up before the Jets take on arguably their biggest rival, the Minnesota Wild, in what should be a fun night inside the building. And then the Jets take on the Leafs on December 23rd, their last game before the holiday break. And this is actually a 1 p.m. local start here in Winnipeg. So a really interesting start time on that Monday, December 23rd, as the Jets are on the road in Toronto taking on the Maple Leafs. That is the upcoming schedule heading into the holiday break. That's going to do it for this edition of Winnipeg Jets Weekly. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button down below, hit that subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss this exact video every single week. The time for it next week is TBD. Might wait till after that Toronto game, so look for a Tuesday morning release of Jets Weekly. But it's going to be another great week of games. Can't wait to see all of you WSTers Saturday night for that game inside Canada Life Center. Thanks for watching this video. Enjoy the games this week, and I'll see you next week on Winnipeg Jets Weekly.